Hi everyone, Joshua Hanlon here at Brick Fiesta Austin 2019, and behind me is one of the massive train layouts here at Brick Fiesta. So this was a big collaborative project, and we've got one of the builders who's going to take us all around and show us what we've got going on here. So if you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Ed Chang. I'm the ambassador for Texas Brick Railroad. We are a Lego train club. We're based all over the state of Texas. For Brick Fiesta, we're able to get pretty much everybody's stuff up here. So it's just kind of showing a range of all the different kinds of displays that we do.
How many people are involved in the whole layout, do you know?
About 15.
Okay, that's an impressive number, so a lot of different people's work on display.
Yes, and a range. You know, there's some people that brought a few things and some people that brought like a quarter of the layout. So yeah, there's a big range of involvement, but I think everybody's kind of talents and experiences all come together to make something pretty cool.
So we'll just maybe start at this end we're looking at right here and then make our way around.
Sure. So this is Toni's module that actually was built to the LGMS standard. This is an abandoned farmhouse, a burned out farmhouse. The story here is that there was a train derailment here, which you can see up here with the burned out boiler, and that set up off a forest fire that burned down Farmer Mockfiller's farmhouse there. So this is kind of abandoned, and now nature has taken over with all the forest and the flowers and things. So
I love the ghosts with the lights inside there.
Yes, that's one of our little Easter egg scenes, and our Scooby-Doo up there too. So let's see, we can go down towards this end. It's a little drive-in theater. It's always very entertaining for the kids. It's built by Tim Howell. A lot of this stuff up here is Tim's stuff, so you can kind of see a little different style, but still. So I think it's pretty cool. That's also his Hogwarts running in the background there. So we can
the zombie cheerleaders here.
Zombie cheerleaders. Which everybody wants to put the head back on that one that's intentionally there. But that's always an entertaining thing. And we've got Batman at the bat, puppy stealing second and all that. So we like to do that in our layouts. It's not too serious on the train side. I mean, we like to do our scale models and all that, but we also like to have a little fun, especially with our display. So we've got lots of little Easter eggs and funny scenes and things like that, pop culture references in it.
What do we have with the dinos back here?
Yeah, that was an idea that Toni came up with. I think he took inspiration from some of the stuff that he saw some other people doing online. We've got some of the Brick-It kits in there too. And that's real popular with the kids too. They love seeing the dinosaurs, and a little contrast between the skeletons and the Jurassic Park dinosaurs there. Mm-hmm. So moving on here, we have this is what we call our People's Bridge. It's it's a removable bridge that's built so that we don't have to crawl under the tables. We call it the People's Bridge because we actually got some coverage on CTV, which is the Chinese state TV, at our first show using the bridge, so that's how it got its name, the People's Bridge.
It was christened that show.
Yes, it was. It was interesting, but that's how it got its name.
Take us through the design a little bit of this bridge and how this kind of came together.
Yeah, so this bridge, I wanted to do something a little different. This bridge actually uses no structural technique. It's entirely built with plates and brackets. It's not glued together. Toni's got this milk jug challenge. You got to hold a gallon of milk or water. This bridge actually will hold at least 2. I've not tested it to the breaking point, but we know it'll hold at least 2 gallons of water. And then, like I said, this is our removable bridge. So especially during, in between days when we want to get in and out easily, we can pull the bridge out. That way we don't have to crawl under the tables.
Looks great. And
then so we got our windmill, which is really popular. It's kind of started out as just a little filler thing, but it's become a staple because movement is great and kids love seeing that. And we got our more kind of humorous scenes and things. Here we've got our beginning of our trolley section. We've been doing this a few years and trying to incorporate more interesting track configuration. So we've got our cross track. We've got Garrett's trolley there that's actually Arduino controlled. So it's got automatic start-stop functions and reverse functions. We've got our Galveston Island trolley, which for us, we're statewide. There's several of us based in the Houston-Galveston area, so the Galveston trolley at a lot of our local shows is a big hit because people recognize it.
So we got some more dinosaur action going over here.
Yeah, we've got our little Jurassic World scene here. The outhouse of the T-Rex and all that. Yeah, like I said, it's real popular. And because again, I'll ask all sorts of questions about which dinosaur is this, and I'm not an expert on that, so I usually.
You've got to know these things. Come on.
yeah, little at a time, we're learning. Yeah, so now we're getting more towards our city here. This section of the city is something that I set up. There are 3 or 4 contributors here as far as the buildings, pretty much all mock buildings on this end. One of the things I try to do when we do our cities, which is it's rearranged at every show, so it's never the same at any 2 shows. Try to make it to where there are interesting views. So kind of shooting down, we go over here, the trolley track here. We get the taller buildings in the back to kind of anchor that view, and then get a nice scene that's real deep, which kind of gets you that immersive feeling when you're looking at it. So there are a couple nice kind of viewpoints that you can kind of look down and get that kind of that sense of being in a Lego city instead of maybe just a couple base plates deep.
Right, that kind of like long, almost valley look through the buildings.
Right, exactly. And we're starting to get more lighting in our buildings, which also helps kind of draw the eyes towards the back. So.
What are some of the buildings we have up front here?
We got our little suburban train station here. Got our taco truck. This is a Roadhouse. There's actually an interior here. Let's see if we can take the top off. We got a little interior on the Roadhouse. And then across the street, we've got a Blockbuster, which for people old enough to remember Blockbuster.
It seems to have had a crash through the roof recently.
Yeah, not in great shape. And I've got a Lego store, and the joke of the guy who's gotten in a motorcycle wreck, he's being fixed at the Lego store because he's a Lego person. Got a office building that's it's actually a curtain wall design, which is kind of realistic as far as how real skyscrapers are often built. The skeleton on the inside and the walls that really just hang off that frame.
I love that the building kind of coming at an angle to the main section there is really neat.
That's Tim Howell's design, and that's something that he really wanted to do too, is to just not keep it just kind of on the square grid. And then we do have a couple buildings that are based on real buildings. One of our members, Toni Savvas, his family's from the Texarkana area, so he's built a couple representations of real buildings that are in Texarkana. So the Berman Farr building here. And then in the back, the tall Hotel Grimm, which are famous landmarks in Texarkana. So that he's recreated those. These are done. They're large buildings, but they're done with the walls almost completely 1x2 plates. So many thousands of plates, and a lot of time spent snapping those together. So can come over here. This is one of the things that we've done in the last couple of years is our display track. So I'll have a lot of railroad museums and other historical parks have static train displays. So we've got one of our trains on a little static platform.
Yeah, I feel like that's something you see in a lot of different cities across the U.S. You'll see just like an old train sitting there on display kind of in the town square area or something.
Right. So and it's a good way to display a train in an interesting way, because a lot of the small trains, like the one we've got there, is not powered, doesn't actually run really well because of the little wheels, but it's a way to kind of feature it. That train is actually on display, on a static display at the Galveston Railroad Museum. So when we do that show at the Galveston Railroad Museum, it's always a big hit.
That's great. People can connect with the build a little easier when you're building these kind of real life buildings and some of those things that they recognize.
Right. I think that's something that we like to do, especially because we have interest in doing scale model stuff. So to try to appeal to some of the people that maybe not as into the history of trains and all that. But if you do something local that they've seen before, then they're more likely to kind of appreciate that.
We move around the corner here. What else do we have in this section?
So here we have our kind of staple train station that we've used the last couple of years. This is the first show that it's been lit up. Hold on, we've got a train derailment. Okay. So this is Toni Savvas' Bluebonnet station. Kind of started out as actually a way to use up some of the medium blue that we got real cheap off the pick-a-brick wall. And that kind of blew up and has become, like I said, one of our feature landmarks on our layout. There's a building in the back there next to the billboard that's the Bayou Ballroom. That's a new building. It's just finished by Tim Howell. So just kind of interesting buildings. Like I said, we're trying to do all mock buildings here. got our the lit up library, which is also by Tim, here anchoring the end of the plaza. So this is one of our other kind of views down the city. And then moving over to here's one of our funny kind of Easter egg scenes. This is Jingle Bells, Batman Smells. So we've got the whole thing. Got Robin's egg and then Batmobile on the other side of the track there, and Joker getting away. So. Then our next scene here, this is our mini trains layout. So it's one of those, the Yo Dog, we heard you like train shows. So we put a train show in our train show. So you can see a train show at the train show. It's always a big hit. So the little riding train and then a model train layout on our train layout.
You've got all this great space, so you can get really creative with it and do all sorts of fun things like that.
Yeah, and I think it's always real popular too. I think people like kind of seeing this kind of, kind of amusing kind of features. We've got the beginning here of our monorail line. We've got one of our members, Brian Lassiter, real big into monorail. So he's elevated his monorail. He puts that down over top of the layout, and that ties us into the other half of the layout we'll get into.
I love how the kind of canopy here is the tracks to create that.
The creative use of the track part that's not being used as necessarily a track function. But the curve gives it a nice little variety instead of the straight lines that we usually see. This is one of Garrett's trains here, the LNER Mallard, very famous British train, holds the speed record for steam engines. He's got it all lit up. It's got sound card in it. So we got a little bit of kind of British flair here with Gareth building a lot of his British trains.
Always good to have a little international influence.
Yeah, it's we're happy to have him stolen from KC Brick Labs. So. And this is also Gareth's little. It's a kind of British style canal scene with a canal boat being pulled by a horse. So our train yard here in between the two main sections of the layout. A couple other builders here. David Tapia, one of our newer members, is the Bessemer Steel switcher over here, the orange one up front. A couple of Toni's trains that people might recognize as very famous Daylight in the F7. And then, of course, the Princess train, which is the original Princess train, which is always real popular with the girls. So.
Got all the different scenes in there.
We've got Ariel here in her aquarium car. That's took inspiration from what Lionel did with their aquarium car. And then next is Elsa in her reefer car. So it's a refrigerated box car. So of course that they have Elsa in there. Got Olaf on his beach hopper. And then the carriage with all the other princesses, which is getting quite full. So I'm gonna have to build more cars here. The engine here is the second Princess train engine. This one is based on a real engine, so it's a little bit of just having fun with, the scale model trains and being real serious about, it's got to be realistic and got to get every detail, which is a little artistic license, but it is pretty much a scale model. There's actually, after I built the Princess version, I switched the colors back to the realistic Canadian Pacific colors of the real train. So I've got two of these, but it's that's the current engine on the Princess train.
I like the one John's showing there right now.
This Gareth's car carriers, British-style car carriers. It's got to represent with all the Union Jacks on there, and the minis.
Like, decals or printed pieces there?
I think they're stickers, decals of some kind. Yeah. So it's also another little British thing here, the Ludborough signal box. That he's got lights in the full interior. This is what the railroads use to change the switch tracks to make sure the trains go into the right place and don't run into each other. I believe the real one is in England, in Ludborough presumably, still in use in a heritage railway. Then we've got, trying to fit in with the theme of Brick Fiesta this year, which is going green. This is Brian Lassiter's solar farm and wind farm. Trying to fit in, and I joked with Will when he announced the theme and asked us to be at Brick Fiesta. The theme of keeping it green, and we'll say, well, Toni and I build a lot of steam engines, so we'll bring all our coal-fired steam engines to your show to fit with your,
Got a little Fortnite reference here.
Fortnite here. That's Fortnite here. That's Lasso's new creation here. I got to appeal to the kids. Yeah. But it's good scene. It's good landscaping and get a little interest to it. A little water feature. So getting to the second kind of main section of the layout, we've got another couple loops of track over here. This is done by a lot of the people up in the Austin area. Steve Jackson, Will Heron's got some buildings in here. Gareth's got some buildings. David Tapia's got some stuff. Dr. Racy out in New Braunfels, one of our members, brought a few buildings here too. So this is kind of a little different style, but still very city. Got the Trans Blue Tower, which anchoring the center of it, all lit up. That's another one of those all 1x2 plate buildings, but there's a little brick bending going on here to make it a little more interesting.
Yeah, the angles there definitely add some nice kind of level of detail, make it pop a little more.
Right. So yeah, because you don't see a lot of triangular buildings, a lot of times the Lego buildings tend to be more square, so they get a little variety. And then of course the lights, draw the attention to it.
Some of these old big blue canopy pieces here for the train station.
Yeah, I've got some of the old. This is the main station. It's nice running the monorail, the automatic reversing feature. So when we do our train layouts, we like to have loops so we don't have to constantly drive the trains back and forth. But the monorails will go back and forth on their own, which is real cool.
What do we have represented in kind of this city section?
So yeah, this is like I said, this is just a lot of them are custom or modified sets. More city scenes.
I like the glass kind of down here on these buildings.
Yeah, and he had lights in it at one point, but yeah, trying a little more modern style, because a lot of the modular style is a little more like traditional style buildings. So having more of the glass paneling and I guess kind of frosted glass. It was like 70s or something. Yeah. And coming down here, this is our integrated to our section here. This is on the end here is Joe and Lisa Herbert, one of our Austin members. They do some really cool stuff. It's a little different style than what we do, but over the years they've gotten it to mesh a little better. So he's got a lot of these construction and crane type stuff. He's got a gantry crane here that's power function controlled. It'll pick up the cargo containers off the truck and move it over and load it onto the train cars.
Got some nice movement involved there then.
Yeah, definitely having the movement. He's still into the 9-volt, which is we still got the legacy stuff here too. But definitely the movement and the height of the tower crane here definitely is real fun. So.
I love the unique landscaping created there as well, and the kind of different colors and everything, and some of those small little like half tree pieces and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so bringing more interest and also kind of blending some of the more kind of deserty stuff, and I think a lot of this is actually Lisa Herbert's work, especially the river here in the front of this. Just making use of different pieces and different colors to get a little variety.
So let's see if we go around the corner here. We got some nice Octane references. I always like that.
Yeah, a lot of the Octane cars, and the gantry crane actually will pick up those the stacks of the Octane tanks and can move them over onto the trucks. Coming around.
This tree here is very, very unique with the pieces used. I don't think I've seen those used on a tree before.
Yeah, I think that's those hinge pieces. Must have gotten a bunch of those off the wall or something. But it's nice having the angles, because a lot of our trees tend to be a little flat. But little angles, different technique.
And this side of buildings, maybe a little more run down on the right side here.
Yeah, maybe a little bit more the industrial side of town. Getting closer to the main station on this end. The big train station over here was actually it's been modified. Originally, it's actually a build by an AFOL who's not really in the hobby anymore. Steve Jackson took it over and modified it a bit, expanded it a bit to fit our track standards. I think when the train was originally built, it was intended for the 6-wide trains, and we tend to do more of the 8-wide stuff. So it's been modified to fit our track standards, and but it's nice to see some of the stuff not going to waste when people leave. People have taken over and continued.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, the dome pieces are very unique there. It's a unique looking kind of aesthetic to the build.
A little bit more of a different architectural style, just to have a little variety. So.
Then we've got couple of small buildings back here.
Yeah, we've got a little bit smaller buildings. We're trying to incorporate a little GBC here, our kinetic sculpture GBC here. Just a little more movement in the city. And we've got some older road plates and trees and bits, and our outdoor cafe here with the cypress trees. We are pretty happy. We've got the new powered up train running here. It's been pretty reliable so far. I know there's a lot of hate on powered up right now. It's not perfect, but we're trying to make it work because that's what Lego's going to. So we got to find ways around it.
Yeah, you work with kind of the systems that they have out there.
Yeah, we've got a variety of power systems. Most of our trains, because built in the last few years, we're using the stock power function stuff. But we've at this show we've got we got powered up here. We've got the FX brick in the Princess train. Gareth's done a lot of work using a Deltang RF control system that's actually intended for garden scale trains, but figuring out ways to hack that in, and the radio control is much more reliable than Bluetooth, with all the advantages of not needing line of sight to anything, and then having other functions as far as like automatically turning on your reverse lights or triggerable sounds and speakers and all that. So we're experimenting. We're open to what all our members want to try, and actually getting a lot of good ideas from each other. So that's one of the things we like to do. So kind of share and everybody experiment with their own things. And we have more diehard fans that really want to stick with the stock stuff and a little more hesitant to change. But we run 9-volt, we run custom stuff, so get a variety.
Yeah, that kind of ties in with what I wanted to ask you about. With so many builders involved in a layout like this, and obviously they kind of all have their own style and everything, what is it like when you all come together and try to put everything on display at once and kind of making sure everything melds together and works out?
Yeah, we have a kind of unique style. All of our layout is planned ahead of time. There's some clubs that like to just kind of show up and be spontaneous about it. That's not really how we roll.
Planning is always the better option.
Yes, we use a lot of blue brick. Steve actually has this miniature. He's got little 4x4 plates that represent base plates, and he uses those to plan out his layout with physical parts, which is pretty cool. But I do a lot of the blue brick stuff. All of our buildings, track plan, everything is set up ahead of time, so we know where they go. We use custom tables on most of the layout, so they fit exactly to the base plates. So that's way we can plan where everything's going to go. On this side over here where we're at, these use just plastic, regular banquet tables. But most of our shows we do use our custom tables because it's nice to have level tables that fit the base plates just right.
So at the shows that the train club is kind of involved in throughout the year, will most members go to every show, or does it just depend on kind of where it is in the state and whoever can make it for each display? Yeah,
it's really variable. So like I said, we're a statewide club, so we've got members primarily in kind of Central Texas, Houston, or Austin, and then the Houston area. So most of our shows tend to be around Central Texas, so New Braunfels, Austin, and then in the Houston area around Houston or Galveston. So it's obvious it's a long drive between the shows and the cost of having to stay at a hotel or something. So some of the shows, we may have just the local people doing it, or only one or two people traveling to the show. And a lot of it too depends on the space that we're given. Big conventions like this, we get pretty much as much space as we'd like. But sometimes our local shows, we can only put up in it's like a 20 by 30 square foot area or something. So our layout is different. Every show we do, every single show is a different layout. Our buildings and track, it gets rearranged depending on the type of venue that we have, the people who are going, the kind of things that we want to show off. So all of that's planned ahead of time, depending on who's available and what they want to bring. So that's something that we try to do to kind of keep it interesting. A lot of the shows that we do are annual or twice annual, and we don't want to bring exactly the same thing every time because then people kind of get bored with it. So we have different things that, there are things that we have that we didn't bring here, and the things that are being shown here for the first time that may not be shown for several more shows to come. So
yeah, you kind of keep it new and interesting and that sort of thing.
Right, that's something that we like to do. So when we do our kind of people build stuff for our layout, it tends to be very modular. We don't have a whole lot of big sections, although it's possible to work those in. For example, Tony's the LGMS, the modular layout that he had built for Brick World. We tried to incorporate that to give it another showing, especially at a different convention where people haven't seen it before.
You guys have so much great stuff on display here. If there's someone watching who maybe is interested in getting into kind of town and train layouts, whether it's in Texas or just kind of in the LEGO community in general, are there any resources you would kind of point them to online if they want to learn more about kind of these layouts and how to get involved?
Yeah, definitely, and this is a general advice I give to everybody. Copy what other people are doing. That's how you learn. So look at what other people are doing, look at what other lugs do. Brick Model Railroad is a great resource if you're getting into the trains. There are a couple other guys that are doing the instructions and kits for trains, so that's a good place to start getting beyond just kind of the set stuff. One of the advice that I also give is don't expect to get it right the first time, because nobody gets it right the first time. Even people you may consider expert train builders, a lot of our trains don't run well the first 2, 3, 4, 5 shows, and sometimes they don't run well ever and have to get taken apart and reworked. So it's, there's no pressure to get it right the first time.
I think it's like the Great Ball Contraption in a lot of ways like that, where you've just got to keep experimenting with it and keep running it.
It is. I think that's one of the things. Anything with moving parts is not going to work exactly as it did at home when you get it to the show. So there's always a little bit of tuning and kind of accumulated experience.
Well, thank you so much, Ed, for spending all this time taking us around the display. I think this is really fantastic, and it's so great to see everything you guys have been able to bring out to Brick Fiesta, so I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming by to see our layout. I'm glad to be able to share it.